do before. Have any of you heard of Brighter Connections Theater before? Oh, perfect. So that's why I'm here today. So my name's Katie. I went to Vandalia Butler High School. I graduated in 2011. I grew up and was raised in that district. I went off to school at Bowling Green State University where I studied special education and I got a minor in theater. And so in between my junior and senior years when I first started Brighter Connections Theater, and it was down at the Dayton Theater Guild. I don't know if you've ever been down there on Wayne. And they were very accommodating. They housed us under our insurance. We just had 7 kids. It was me and a bunch of other BG graduates who happened to be in the Dayton area for the summer. So it was like 7 of us and 7 of them. And that's where we got started. So what we do, our basic format is that we rehearse for 6 weeks with a group of children with autism. And then at the end of those 6 weeks, they put on a performance, and the performance is 100% comprised of ideas from them. So everything that you see in our final show is written by them and our volunteers. So it's a really great way for them to kind of learn some self-advocacy. It's something that we really stress. We use things like theater games, we use theater warm-ups, we use role play, we use devising sessions, and devising is where you create your own material. We use devising sessions, we use improv, we use all of that to help them meet certain goals. So a lot of children with autism struggle with things like communication or social skills, and then sometimes from there behavior issues can arise. So sometimes they have behavior issues. So what we want to work on is we want to use theater as a tool to help students meet some of those needs. So how familiar are you guys with autism? Everyone knows someone with autism? Yeah. So when I first started doing this, the statistic was like 1 in 108 from the CDC. Now it's 1 in 59. It tends to be 4 times more common in boys than girls. But aside from that, there's no limit on race, ethnicity, socioeconomic level. It doesn't discriminate. It just tends to be a little bit more common in boys than it does girls as far as the diagnosis goes. When we talk about autism, as we know, it's like a huge spectrum. So we have some students on one end of the spectrum who are very, very verbal, sometimes a little bit smarter than you in some areas, even though they're only like 8 years old, and can talk. And, at first there might not seem like there's anything different about them, but then you have the other end of the spectrum where students may be nonverbal, which means they don't use their verbal language to communicate. They mostly use their body, or they might use noises or something like that. So at Brighter Connections Theater, our mission is to create a space for all of these students to receive a program where they can fit into. So we always like to say that our program adapts to meet their needs versus them having to adapt to meet our program's needs. So it's different every year. We are now in our 6th summer, so we're just about to finish our first week of rehearsals this week, and we've got some new developments. So we've always had our youth program, it was for 8 to 14. We now have 2 different programs. We have our youth program for 8 to 14 years old, and then we have a young adult program for students 15 to 18 years old. We're over at the University of Dayton. So 3 years ago, Michelle Hayford, the director of their theater department, she saw our show at the Dayton Theater Guild. She got in contact with me, and we started collaborating. So now all of our rehearsals and performances are at the University of Dayton. Their staff is working with us. So we get to use their lighting and their props, and their costumes are made for our show. Minimal costumes, but it really adds that extra show element to it that they now get to experience. They get to work backstage, they get to make props, they get to move scenery, all that kind of stuff. And we also have UD student fellows who are here over the summer working with us, learning how to use applied theater and learning how to work with students who have different needs, which is really exciting for us as well. So at the end of the 6 weeks, our shows are July 13th, 14th, and 15th, which you are all invited to. We'd love to have you guys there. The show on Friday, July 13th is at 7 p.m. and then our weekend shows on Saturday and Sunday are at 2 p.m. And once again, the whole show is kind of comprised of little sketches that they've written. So it there's no overarching storyline, but there usually tends to be a theme throughout. So So that's kind of a basic overview of what we do. We have a lot of talented people working with us, younger and older. We have a lot of new board members that just came on, so we're really looking to expand. We seem to get like a little bit bigger every year. So our youth program has 14 kids, and our young adult program has 8 kids right now, which is a big difference from our little group of 7 that we started off with. But we also have a lot of kids who have been in it for 6 years. I think we have 3 this year who are going to have or will be in our program for the 6th year. And all of our students this year, except for 3, are returning members. So that's really exciting to see that this is a program that parents like, that they enjoy, they feel that their kid feels comfortable in, and that they want to bring them back to. And the last note that I always want to point out is that we like to keep our program very affordable. Parents with children with autism spend a lot of money every day, all the time on, they need speech services or occupational services or a different doctor to help figure out this problem, or that doctor didn't work, so they need another recommendation. So parents with autism work very, very, very hard. I have a lot of respect for them. So in order to help with that, we keep our program costs very low. So for 6 weeks of rehearsal, our camp only costs $40 for them to participate, and that includes everything that they might need throughout the 6 weeks.
A 6-week camp for $40.
For $40 in the summer.
They obviously don't stay there the whole 6 weeks, do they?
They do. So they rehearse for an hour and a half each night.
And then they go home.
And then they go home.
Oh,
yeah, so it's not like an overnight camp.
I thought it was an overnight camp. I was like, that's pretty good.
Sorry.
Wow.
No, I don't think I could do that. But no, they come in for an hour and a half each evening during their scheduled session for 6 weeks, for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then our weekend of shows. So with that being said, do you guys have any questions?
I didn't get the dates again. I know it was in July.
Yep.
13th,
14th, and 15th. And if for some reason you're not able to make any of those, we also open our dress rehearsal up to like community supporters. So if you wanted to, if for some reason you really wanted to come and you couldn't attend those weekend days, Thursday, you can come to our dress rehearsal.
What time is it?
7. What else is
7
it?
o'clock
7.
on the 13th, 2 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday.
and the location again is?
It's actually going to be at the University of Dayton in their Black Box Theater.
Now you have a webpage on
It's
here.
in
So is
Fitz
that
Hall.
on here? Is that going to be all on there on the webpage?
All of this right here?
No,
Greater
the
Connections
times.
Theater.com?
Oh, yes, it'll be on our website.
Okay.
It should be on our website right now.
How do you get your funds?
A lot of it's individual. So individual donors who've been supporting for a long time, who become interested in it. I'm based out of Vandalia, so that usually helps when, I'm trying to look for funds. I've recently applied to, things like the Vandalia Optimist Club, Vandalia Lioness Club, the Vandalia Cultural Arts Program has given some money, because we've also got quite a few students who are in the Butler District that are also in our program in Dayton. But we've got students who come from everywhere: Oakwood, Springfield, Kettering. They come from all over. So a lot of individual donors, a lot of smaller organizations that give. We recently became eligible for more grants since we've had our nonprofit status for at least 2 years now. So we're starting to explore some of those avenues as well.
What kind of a budget do you have?
So our budget, we receive a lot of in-kind from the University of Dayton, so we don't have to pay for our rehearsal space or, the time of the staff or student volunteers, so that helps a lot. That alone, if you count all of UD's in-kind donations, probably totals about $15,000 or $16,000.
Yeah.
Aside from that, our overhead is probably, our total overhead budget is probably about $8,000 off the top of my head. And a lot of that, it's, kind of hard because we are smaller. We can only have so many kids in our program right now with the staff that we have. But we still have like the same overhead that another bigger nonprofit organization would have to have, especially since we're working with kids. We have to have a lot of insurance and policies set in place like that. So yeah, that comes to about 23 total, if you count the in-kind donations as well.
That's good. Then,
Very good.
so you say UD is the one that's helping?
Yes.
How did you get UD to help?
So it was our third summer of shows, and we were still at the Dayton Theater Guild. And Meredith Moss had written an article in the Dayton Daily about us, and it was advertising our show dates. Michelle Hayford saw it. She grabbed one of the costumers that worked for their staff, and they just came to the show, saw it, and found me afterwards, and we talked a little bit, and we got set up for the next year with them. So, yeah.
And have you noticed the improvement in the clients that you work with?
Absolutely. Especially the ones that I've known for 5 or 6 years now. They're totally different, of course, from when we, first met them, which isn't necessarily because of us. They've grown up and they've gone to school every day and they've had a lot of work and,
The experience helps,
a lot of
though.
training. But I think what's really fun to see is how comfortable they feel coming in on the first day of rehearsal, because they know a lot of the volunteers that work there have been there for quite a few years. They know what to expect. They know what's expected of them. They know what they're going to be doing, and there's just kind of a sense that they know that they're free to express who they are however they want. So for instance, there's a lot, some students might tend to yell or run across the room, and it's just kind of like a sensory thing that they need. It's not like they're trying to be a distraction or something, but that's something that we let them do. We don't really try to we know that they're not doing it as a distraction or in order to get attention or something like that. They're fulfilling a sensory need that they have, and that's how they do it. So just creating a space for them where they feel comfortable to be themselves. So, I think of one student in particular, when he first came to us, the first couple of years, it always took him a full 5 weeks to finally get warmed up. And then he was good. He was in a good mood. He was ready to do his stuff. We didn't have to keep telling him the same things over and over again. And that same student, he's now in his 6th year. And on the very first day of rehearsal this week, he was laughing, and he was participating, and he was taking direction really well. So, and I think part of that is, he has grown up, but also he knows what we want from him, and this is a place where he likes to come now. He likes being there. Yeah.
Have you worked with URS?
No, Tony was just telling me about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
It might be somebody to contact and let them know what you're doing. Maybe they could also give some support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And why do you think it is that you've doubled, or that we now have twice the percentage of people that are,
With
autistic?
Yeah, I
autistic?
think higher rates of diagnosis, doctors parents are catching it. There's more awareness, so parents can see signs
But
earlier.
it's also because we eat the wrong foods. If we were in Europe, there is no autism. So you don't want to get me started on this subject because
Okay, I won't
it's the food that we eat in America that causes children
And
to
what they
become
do to that food.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
genetically modified foods
Yeah.
and high fructose corn syrup. I go down the list, and basically, and they don't have any proof of this other than the fact Europeans have no autism, and
Yeah.
we have a ton of autism. And what do we eat? Processed food.
Yeah.
Case closed. Done. You don't even have